Hi there YouTube! Welcome back to Kupo Gamer. I'm Marco, and today, welcome to our part 1 of our Kingdom Hearts 3 review. Whew! It's been a minute, so it's good to be back. So today, we are finally reviewing Kingdom Hearts 3 in a video series, actually. So today is going to be our part 1 of this review. For Kupo's review of this game, we're going to split it up into 2 different videos. For this segment that is our spoiler-free part of the review, we broke down the Kingdom Hearts gameplay into 4 different topics. We are going to be rating these 4 topics on a 1 to 5 scale, with 5 being the highest score that it can get. Once everything's said and done, we're going to be putting all of our review numbers together to give our final score. Our part 2 to this review is going to contain massive spoilers as we talk about the plot. But today, we're going to stick to our gameplay analysis. So with all that being said, let's crack into things. So the first topic for review comes down to the combat of Kingdom Hearts 3. Sora's base combat, with how he handles just attacking with his Keyblade, it's very smooth this time around, and gives Sora a lot of options right from the start. Magic this time around in Kingdom Hearts 3 is extremely powerful, and it adds a really fun punch from it just being cosmetically awesome to it being very viable in every combat situation in this game. All of the magic spells in this game look amazing, and commands like water is a really cool new magic command that the Kingdom Hearts series is getting for the first time. From Keyblade transformations, to shot lock teleporting, to attraction flow and flow motion mechanics, there's a lot that Sora can do this time around that would have blown our minds like 5 years ago. All of these new mechanics definitely give the player something to work with and make their own style of Sora combat. So it's a very customizable experience no matter what way you want to play Kingdom Hearts 3. With all of this being said though, there are some cons that come up with this title. Sora is way too powerful right from the start. This power gap between you and your enemies only gets worse too as you progress through the game. Though it's very awesome to have a powerful character that you can, do a lot of damage with and keep up with the flow of combat, a lot of times I found that Sora, as I was attacking with him, enemies wouldn't even last through his combos. So it was really hard to get satisfying victories when everything just incinerated around you. Following this same sort of gripe, I found that aside from Sora just being too powerful, enemies were too weak. And this also made Sora just way too overpowered and made the combat of this game from start to finish, unfortunately, just way too easy. Aside from the difficulty level for this game being a concern, I also found that the command window became a very cluttered mess with the amount of options that Sora can do in this game. I've had a lot of conversations as well, from Twitter to in person, to some friends of mine on other social media platforms as well. I found that a lot of gripes came from there being an overwhelming amount of commands in the command window. It's one thing to give the player a lot of options to make a very customizable experience for them, but you also need to know when to call it and see when you're adding too many things into the mix. Kingdom Hearts 3 definitely suffered from an overly complicated combat system. Whenever you pair that with an enemy that is far too easy, you just get a really unrewarding experience for the amount of work that you want to put into this game. A lot of people that I've talked to as well didn't even know that you could toggle between the commands and switch them mid-combat. One thing that past Kingdom Hearts games have allowed players to do that they didn't allow in this game was the ability to turn off things like Trinity limits, and in this situation, things like the attraction flow. For my playstyle, I didn't really use the attraction flow all too much, and whenever it popped up, I found it more of a nuisance than something that I actually wanted to use. If they wanted to have these options in, then they truly should have made it something that the player can toggle on and off when they want to. And I just felt that we weren't given as many selection opportunities as we were in the past. So with all of that being said, the Kupo review for basic combat in Kingdom Hearts 3 is getting a 3.7 out of 5. With these gripes, there is some room for improvement. For example, I was having a very easy time going through this game. So what I decided to do was try the 0 EXP challenge. What this does is keep Sora and all of your party members at level 1 throughout the Kingdom Hearts 3 journey. If you're looking for a challenge that, the Proud Mode difficulty wasn't able to provide for you, I really can't recommend doing this enough. So start a new game with the 0 EXP ability on, and you might find that the gripes that I'm having here might be answered a little bit. The next category in our review is enemies. So this topic of enemies is going to range from design of enemies, to combat with enemies, to boss battles, and some endgame stuff without spoilers, I promise. The way that some of these World Heartless looked were really cool, and it was a nice refreshing taste in Heartless design. Aside from just Heartless, we even got a couple new nobodies that were really fun to fight, and we haven't seen specific organization members nobodies till now, which was really refreshing and really fun to fight. And obviously too, we got some new Unversed, which they were pretty sweet too. So on an enemy standpoint, thumbs up so far with design. One element that I thought was a really cool addition to Kingdom Hearts 3 was the armor feature that we got to see with some harder Heartless. The armor feature was a great touch, adding another level of depth into combat in basic Heartless skirmishes. The enemies in which you fought in Kingdom Hearts 3, though they were cool, once again, they were far too easy. From the first Heartless Swarm to the last Heartless Swarm of Kingdom Hearts 3, there was hardly a time in this game where I truly felt challenged. Adding to this as well, there were far too many Heartless bosses compared to actual 1v1 plot significant character battles. In the past Kingdom Hearts games, we've experienced a lot of organization battles and important just character moments with Sora that we've experienced through fighting one-on-one members of the organization or just important characters in the Kingdom Hearts series. This time around, we got a very limited selection of actual bosses that weren't Heartless oriented. Aside from these battles being very big to Sora and company's plot development, it's also something that really rewards the player for getting through these basic combat skirmishes and leveling up their character to fight harder situations. Whenever you're finally able to fight organization members or plot significant villains, unfortunately it feels so underwhelming because the battles are so short and once again, not that hard. The boss battles too that revolve around the Heartless really could be skippable and aren't important to the Kingdom Hearts plot even slightly. In the past, it felt that these Heartless bosses or nobody bosses were very intricately woven into the plot, at least to a degree that it pushed the Kingdom Hearts plots forward. This time around, it didn't feel like the case, as all of these bosses could have been replaced with pretty much anything and have had the same amount of impact, which was like nothing. The designs of basic enemies as well as bosses that were plot significant as well as not plot significant were really cool. But the payoff didn't feel all there whenever everything was hyper easy to beat and the battles that were significant to the story were so few and far between. The Kupo review for the enemies in Kingdom Hearts 3 are getting a 3.5 out of 5. The reason why I'm giving this a 3.5 compared to a 3 is because we've been promised DLC. With the promise of DLC over the horizon, this gives us some hope that some of these problems can be fixed with patches as well as some new fresh content. Moving on to the worlds of Kingdom Hearts 3. The worlds that Sora and company visit this time around in Kingdom Hearts are really dang cool. The worlds are very beautiful and there was a lot of time and effort dropped into the construction of these worlds. Aside from them just looking really good, they're extremely large too compared to their predecessors, which is something that Kingdom Hearts definitely benefited from. With these large maps comes a lot of things for you, the player, to be able to find. from Mickey emblems to synthesis materials. There's also this whole like Moogle picture thing that you gotta do to get more cool things. There's a lot of stuff to find in this game with worlds this massive. With these worlds too came something that the Kingdom Hearts series has needed for so long. What I'm talking about is NPCs. Just a bunch of random people making these worlds feel like there are actual people to save. Just adding something as simple as NPCs in every world makes it way more believable and immersive to the plot. And they did a really good job at making these NPCs look really good. Though these worlds were really cool and well thought out, there were some cons that came with it too. We'll be getting into this with our next review, but specifically this time around with the Disney worlds, there was way too much Disney and not enough Kingdom Hearts. This is also reflected in what is actually going on in these worlds, from mini-games to just people you're talking to. There just wasn't a lot of Kingdom Hearts representation compared to Disney representation. Adding to this as well, the Heartless spawn ratio was really down compared to last games. There were times when I found it actually kinda hard to get into Heartless battles, which is really weird, since in previous games you just like take a step out of pretty much any door and you're just tripping over Heartless. The world design of Kingdom Hearts 3 though, overall I think is one of its strongest assets. The final Kupo number for the world design of Kingdom Hearts 3 is getting a 4 out of 5. So now brings us to the final element of this review. We're talking about Gummies and Mini-Games. So Kingdom Hearts 3 brought us a lot of mini-games and a lot of gummy for this incarnation of Kingdom Hearts. Without a single doubt in my mind, this by far is the best gummy ship system that Kingdom Hearts has ever had in any part of its life. The gummy ships this time around gave us, the players, a lot of options, and it made it streamlined enough that it felt like it was an actual self-selling title. The exploration for the gummy ships this time around felt like you were actually in space making your own spaceship. This time around too, the gummy ship creation is really smooth, and I've just found myself getting lost in it for hours on end. Another tip of my hat that I gotta give the gummy ships this time around too is that they actually made it something that is worthwhile to invest in to benefit the real combat of Kingdom Hearts 3. During your time in the gummy ship, you're going to be encountering asteroids as well as other objects in gummy space. Specifically with the asteroids, if you blow them up, you're gonna get components that allow you to synthesize Keyblades as well as level up your Keyblades and make other items like staffs for Donald and shields for Goofy. Adding a forging system to the gummy ship process that actually benefits Sora, Donald, and Goofy's main key gameplay is something that really made the gummy ship system fulfilling, rewarding, and added to this really nice polished engine that they gave this minigame. Now here though brings me to my cons. There are way too many mini-games for this game. Whenever they brought Classic Kingdom to KHUX, I was not a fan from the very start. And I know I'm not alone too. A lot of people just ditched Classic Kingdom from the start, and I really wish that Square would have listened to the fans on this. Though you do get a Keyblade in this game, which does not have a lot of Keyblades to begin with, I was not a fan of how Classic Kingdom was executed. Classic Kingdom ultimately felt more like an obligation to get a Keyblade than for it to be actually fun, which made that's a big flag for development. I just gotta say, if they would have play tested that element, I really think that they might have had that taken out of the game. That's my opinion. Square developed way too many minigames and gave these minigames more attention than I think that they did to other assets of this game. If they would have focused more of those resources into core gameplay development, I feel like they would have had a much more solid product at the end of the day with less fluff that people didn't even ask for. For example, if they wanted to add something like the bistro where you make food with Ratatouille's Remy, they should have looked into the combat balancing to see if this was going to be something that players actually were going to need or want to use. During my first playthrough, I didn't even touch the bistro, and I only started to use food when I entered the 0 EXP mode. I really did enjoy making food in this game, but I just didn't really have a need to do it until I put specific difficulties on my own character. I really don't think that the average player is going to even touch the bistro or have need for it, and that could have been avoided if they would have given the balancing of this game a bigger focus during development. So with all this being said, the Kupo review of the mini-games as well as the gummy ship feature of Kingdom Hearts 3 is getting a 3.5 out of 5. Alright fam, so with all of this being said, tallying up all the numbers and giving our final score, Kingdom Hearts 3 gets the Kupo rating of a 7.6 out of 10. Kingdom Hearts 3 is not the best in the series, it is certainly not the worst in the series. This game at its core has a solid foundation and is supported with some really fun gameplay. In the current form of Kingdom Hearts 3, which a lot of us in the community have been calling it Vanilla Kingdom Hearts 3, without DLC, patches, or any changes to what it is so far, it's a solid foundation that can be grown upon. In the past, if we look at Kingdom Hearts 2, or Kingdom Hearts 1 for that matter, they got final mix forms that added a lot more content that made them into the games that we remember them to be today. With that being said, once we get the DLC in its entirety, we're going to give this review a final mix version of itself. So expect a final mix, final review from Kupo in the future. From the lack of bosses to an overcomplicated combat flow with ridiculously easy adversaries at every turn, all of these components dragged the game down a bit and altered our rating to make it fall into the 7.6 area. Though this game was fun, the current state of Kingdom Hearts 3 has left us a lot to be desired as well. Another gripe that I know that I've had, as well as a lot of people in the community have had too, is the lack of Keyblades in this game. Kingdom Hearts, from its first title on to now, has been known for having really awesome variety in weapon choices, as well as just the amount that you can choose from. This time around, they gave way too much emphasis on the world Keyblades and not enough emphasis on just Kingdom Hearts plot Keyblades, which we've had in the past. Aside from a very small handful, which I'm gonna say is like 3 at the max, there were not a lot of plot significant Keyblades that were sleek and refined as we've seen in past Kingdom Hearts games. The current state of this game doesn't really leave combat-wise a lot of options for you to go and explore and really fight with Sora at peak Sora capabilities. So I hope that future DLC brings us stuff like Coliseum battles, as well as, extra bosses like what we saw in Final Mix for Kingdom Hearts 2, to a critical mode. There are so many things that they can add to this game that they've already added in past Kingdom Hearts games that ultimately I think will make this a much stronger title that'll have a much longer shelf life. Ultimately though, this game is something that if you've been playing the Kingdom Hearts series for as long as we have, we can't recommend to play this game enough and to play it and see it for what it is. But this is just part 1 of our Kupo review. So look forward to our story analysis of this game and the official rating we give for the plot of Kingdom Hearts 3 in a future video. So now's the time for the comment shout out of the day. What is your official review of Kingdom Hearts 3's gameplay? Do you like it more or do you like it less? Do you agree with us or you disagree? Let us know in the comments below why. If you like what you saw today, feel free to like, subscribe, and flick that notification bell for all the things coming at you from Kupo. The links to our social media will be in the description below, so feel free to check us out on Twitter and Instagram. Well fam, that's about all the time we got for today. So thanks for stopping by our cozy little nook of the internet. I'm Marco, this is the Kupo Key Gamer. It's been so real, and may your heart be your guiding key. This time around, this time around, this time around, this time around, this time around too, this time around, this time around too, this time around, this time around, and this time around, this time around too, this time around. There are way too many Keyblades. Oh wow, Keyblades, I wish.